All right, thank you for watching the 11-1 video. I wanted to review some of these terms. The big idea of 11-1 is knowing the terms that we can go on and use throughout topic 11. The first one is going to be the point. Now, I drew a few points up here. The key thing to remember about the point is that it is the exact spot. If I draw this and I have a point, my point is going to be the exact spot on this line. For example, here is another one. I'm going to use a point to show that exact spot. Another vocabulary term that we learned is the line. Right there is I drew a line right there. And one thing that we have to always remember about the line is that it has these arrows. It has those arrows. Now, those arrows show that the line goes on and on and on. The line will never stop. As long as you have these arrows, it's going to go on forever. So, for example, I'll draw a few lines here. That is a line because I have those arrows. That line goes on and on forever. Again, these are lines because I have these arrows. Another term we learned was the line segment. So, one thing to know about the line segment, it's a little bit like a line except for one major detail. A line segment does not go on forever. And in fact, if you remember, I have these points that we are talking about. A line segment stops at endpoints. These are called endpoints because this is where this line ends. So it is a line segment. Now, a line goes on forever. We see that because of these arrows. A line segment does not. It stops because of these end points. So just to review so far, we have our point. Our point marks the exact spot. We also have our line. The biggest thing with the line again, it goes on and on forever. It never stops. We know that because of the arrows. Then we have our line segment. Our line segment does stop, and it's because of these endpoints right there. So I want you to use that knowledge I want you to build on that knowledge with the next two terms that I have for you for topic 11, lesson 1. I'm going to draw two lines on the board. Those two lines are called intersecting lines. I'm going to say that again. Intersecting. Now, first off, we know I have my lines because I have my arrows. These intersecting lines actually are going to cross at one point. They intersect at one point. That's how we get intersecting lines. These lines will only cross at one point. I want you to imagine this line goes on and on and on forever. This line goes on and on and on forever. They will never touch again. So these intersecting lines will cross at one point. And that's what makes those intersecting lines. Now, I'm going to draw two more lines, and there's going to be something about those. These lines are called parallel, and I'm going to actually write the word parallel because I'm going to show you a trick that can help you remember that. The important thing to know about parallel lines is that they will never ever touch. I want you to imagine that these lines go on and on forever. This line goes on and on forever. If you imagine that, they're never going to touch. And that's what makes them parallel. One thing that could help you remember that is actually the word parallel. Right here, do you see these two L's? Those are parallel themselves. So just seeing the word parallel can help you remember that parallel lines will never, never touch. So again, let's look at this. These lines are intersecting lines because they intersect at one point. They intersect at one point. The lines below are parallel lines. These parallel lines will never intersect. So those are our terms that we learned about in 11-1. And I want to talk quickly about I want to show one diagram that can help you, or one diagram that you may see as a type of a problem. So I want you to imagine, we talked about this in class, we had some streets. So we'll do that. We'll have a street there. We'll have a street here. We'll have a street here. And then we'll have a street here. Let's call this street A. This one is street B. This is street C. And then this one right here is street D. And it's looking, as I look at my computer, it's hard to see that A. There, it's a little better. One thing that we notice right here, if we look at streets C, which is right here, and D, we notice that they are intersecting lines. And if you look right here, here is a point where C and D intersect. Sometimes you may be asked, well, which two streets are parallel? And so here you have to look. You have to look at all your streets. Imagine that the streets go on and on forever. Which set of streets will never touch? So let's look at A and B. Well, if we extend A and B, well, they touch right there. We know that A and B are not parallel because they touch. Well, what about B and D? Well, B and D touch as well. D and A. Well, D crosses A right here. But if you look, streets B and C will never touch. Will never touch. So, streets B and C are parallel. When you do this, you have to imagine the lines going on forever. You know, sometimes in our diagrams we may see arrows like this, or sometimes we may not. Sometimes we may just see little lines. Sometimes we see it in problems such as which path is parallel, which path intersects. So you just have to imagine that they go on and on forever to see which will not touch. So those are the big things we're going to talk about for 11-1. We have our point, which again, this is our point. It shows one specific spot. We have our line. The arrows show that a line goes on and on forever. That's the most important part about a line. This is not a line because it does not have the arrows. Then you have your line segments. Your line segments have two endpoints. So this is your line segment. You have intersecting lines. Then you have parallel lines. I'm so glad you're able to sit and watch this. And if you need any help during your homework, just pop this video on, press pause, do anything that you need to know to see what help you may get. I hope you have a good night, and I hope to get these coming, and hopefully they'll get a little better as we go along the way. Have a good night.